Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming to this, our service of remembrance. For those who have passed without a home in the last year, my name is Heaton. I'm the pastor here at Greene Memorial United Methodist Church. I want to thank Josh and Brandon for being here and offering the gift of music for this service. You may be aware, but this is a high season in the church, and so you're surrounded by the trappings of the season. We're ending what we call Advent, coming out of the darkness and into the light, which is the affirmation of the church even about life and death, and life after death. Just to let you know, the reason there's a baptismal font filled with symbols of love and kisses is because the message is there is an abundance of love for this world. And so you can feel free to grab some of those symbols of love and kisses that we affirm about the nature of the gift of life that God has given us. As we begin, I invite you to hear these words of grace. We have gathered here to praise God, to witness to our faith, and celebrate the gift of life. This gift which God has offered to all humankind. Though we come together in grief and acknowledging our human loss, we've come to pray that God would search our hearts, that in pain we can find some comfort. In sorrow we can have a sense of hope. And even in the recognition of death, we can proclaim resurrection. Amen.
children, let us not love in word or take, but in deed and in truth. Love is nothing if we only in words. If we only concern in statistics about the homeless that get us into the press or books or articles, but make little difference in terms of families. We have not certain places to call home. Our agencies and our organizations combine truth, action, and word with the homeless in our community. They design plans for moving the homeless from a viable to a long-term residence, possible jobs to sustain their change in our lives. For certain, love is compassion. It is the key motivator behind the approach to the homelessness. We now have 3 of our groups work with our homeless. Between each speaker, we will have a said that refrain as written in your bulletin. May God have a blessing upon the reading of His word today and those who have heard His words.
Administrator for the City of Roanoke, my boss, Allie Hammond-Moore, Executive Director at Arch, and the entire Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness for allowing me to be here. My gratitude derives from the fact that I'm here to discuss a very serious issue that often goes unacknowledged because it's uncomfortable. That issue is youth homelessness, and for these purposes, I'm referring to youth that are 18 to 24 years old in age. Just as this age group represents a different set of needs with healthcare, employment, and education, so too do their needs differ in the field of homelessness. It is important to acknowledge that youth homelessness is not just a nationwide distant issue. It's a Virginia issue, it's a Southwest Virginia issue, and it's a Roanoke issue. What I can say to counterbalance that unfortunate news is that there's a collective effort right here in the Roanoke Valley working assiduously to remediate youth homelessness. For the past 6 months, there's been a youth homelessness initiative that has met regularly to work towards a comprehensive solution. This is an interagency, multidisciplinary effort with representatives from governmental agencies such as the Department of Social Services, Roanoke City Public Schools, and Ms. Tuning on behalf of the City of Roanoke, nonprofit organizations such as Arch, TAP, the Council of Community Services, and United Way of the Roanoke Valley, and even private enterprise such as the park. Our efforts have been concentrated around sourcing data on the number of homeless youths and the locations that they frequent. This is often furthered by outreach performed in the community, such as places like the park where these people are known to congregate, and forgive me with these homeless youth. These individuals often do not access services through conventional means such as shelters, which makes it inherently difficult to track and help them. Instead, they often couch surf or even engage in survival sex. Even those that meet the textbook definitions of homelessness often don't self-identify as homeless. The Youth Homelessness Initiative will continue to meet and will persist in accumulating data on the amount of youths in need of service, as well as defining the best means by which to provide them the services that they so desperately need. In summation, I'd like to state that while this issue is intractable, it is by no means insurmountable. And I can evidence this by the tremendous success of the coalition that formed right here in Roanoke to address veteran homelessness, eventually bringing it to functional zero. Through continued interest and efforts from a variety or multitude of sources, I'm hoping that by the time we have this ceremony next year, there will not be a single youth name to read on this list. With that, I thank you for your time.
morning, everyone. I would like to thank first Carol Dooney with the City of Roanoke for inviting me to speak here this morning. In order to house homeless veterans within a community, you need to know first who they are. And the end of a problem like veteran homelessness isn't a single moment in time. It is an ongoing outcome in which the total number of veterans experiencing homelessness never outpaces the number of veterans in a community that has proven that it can house each month. And to measure and work toward that outcome, the communities need to know how many veterans are entering and exiting their system every month, as well as how many veterans remain homeless. I can say that through the use of effective case conferencing, data tracking, and the never-ending dedication of our partners, we have successfully built a system right here in our community in Roanoke that ensures that no veteran falls through the cracks. Through our veteran case conference group, we create and maintain a master list of homeless veterans in our community, which ensures that service providers and partners that are working together to end veteran homelessness can make the best use of the resources to house effectively and quickly those in need. I can proudly say that since joining the Mayor's Challenge in 2014 and the Build for Zero Challenge in 2015, our community right here, we have housed a total of 266 homeless veterans, and the work continues. We have also assessed a total of 379 veterans, and recently, between the months of March and December of this year, we have decreased by 41% the amount of actively homeless veterans and hope to continue this trend. While we know that there may be other veterans who fall into homelessness in our community in the future, we can now ensure that homelessness will be a temporary difficulty in a veteran's life. It won't become their life, and it won't define who they are. Thank you.
Our society often makes that an overburdensome challenge. We are committed to making sure that all of our citizens are able to have safe and warm and secure housing. Our system of homeless services here in the Roanoke Valley thinks that no one deserves to be living on the streets, and we're working to make sure that everyone has access to their very own housing. To this end, we're collaborating across agencies and across programs, across our churches, towards a very important common agenda, and that is to end homelessness here. This kind of collective impact drives each of us to align our work, to share our measures, and to communicate continuously. And this kind of collective impact is working. The continuum of care here in the Roanoke Valley coordinates all of our resources for the homeless. Together, we work with a common vulnerability assessment, and we respond with the most appropriate type of housing for each individual. We have teams that work together and review lists of specific names and people so that we can work on each person's case and connect them with the most appropriate type of housing. We can track their experience in our system, and then we use that data to inform our work and maximize our resources. We have a very common and important belief about homelessness, and that is that it should be rare, homelessness should be brief, and it should not be reoccurring. Our goals are to get individuals housed and out of the homeless state, and to decrease the amount of time that they spend homeless. Proven solutions, such as a model called Housing First, drives our work, and that means that we try to get people into their own housing and not just into shelter. We believe in prevention, so we work hard to make sure that things like housing subsidies and cash assistance are available to divert people out of homelessness. And we use rapid rehousing to connect families with housing very quickly so that they can return to stability. We understand that the needs of the homeless are complex, and we're learning more about that every day, and so we are at a very exciting point where we're connecting with partners such as the employment sector and the child care sector to bring resources together to make sure that every individual has access to what they need to be safe and secure in their own housing. Today I represent the Family Initiative of the Blue Ridge Interagency Council on Homelessness, and we are focused on housing families that have children. Imagine the trauma that our children are facing when they go through homelessness. They may not know where they sleep every night. They may not know, they may have parents who are stressed and anxious. And this kind of trauma stays with them throughout their lives. We know from data that it makes it more difficult for them to excel in school and to eventually graduate and be high school graduates and move on to be self-sufficient. We know that it can also cause lasting health issues throughout their life. Maureen Muddinman and Family Promise lead this community's efforts to end homelessness for our families. We're happy to report that 54 families have been housed since July, and we're currently supporting 13 families who are working towards housing. Specifically, United Way, we're working on an initiative called RISE, and we're partnering with the schools and providers in the community, and have identified families who are doubled up and reluctant house guests in other people's homes or living in hotels and motels. We are working to get those families into their own housing, and they've been falling into a gap of services for a long time. Since July, we have assisted 9 families to be housed, and we're currently working with 2 additional families to make sure that they're housed. In total, this represents 84 children in our community that have become housed this year. These children now have the benefit of a safe and warm and stable home. I know that many of you are gathered here today because you support this work, and I thank you for that. I ask you to advocate for this mission and to share the good work that's happening here. We are saving lives. Thank you.
On the edge of our city, down a small winding road, there is a quiet, holy place in an area called Coiner Springs. It's holy because it's hallowed ground. It's a burial place for those in our community who are homeless, who have no place for their bodies to be laid to rest. Many years ago, we had the opportunity to gather there. And in that cemetery, there are 3 big sections with 3 big markers. The 3 large markers signify the bodies that used to lie and rest where Virginia Western Community College is now located. And those bodies were removed from there and placed in Coiner Springs. And those markers indicate the memory of those lives. To the right of that section of land is the current resting place for many people. Some of the markers have names of those who have died. Some of them simply have numbers. But it is a place where we can go, where family and friends of the homeless who have died can go and pay our respects. As we think of that place, as we honor and remember the lives of those who've gone before us this year, I invite us to pray. Holy Refuge, hear our prayer today for all women and men, boys and girls who are homeless this day. For those sleeping under bridges, on park benches, in doorways and bus stations. For those who can only find shelter for the night, but must wander in the daytime. For families broken because they could not afford to pay rent. For those who have no relatives or friends who could take them in. For those who have no place to keep possessions that remind them who they are. For those who are afraid and hopeless. For those who have been betrayed by our social safety net. For all these people, we pray that you will provide shelter, security, and hope. We pray for those of us with warm houses and comfortable beds, that we not be lulled into complacency and forgetfulness. Holy Refuge, help us to see your face in the eyes of every homeless person we meet, so that we may be empowered through word and deed, and through the political change and means we have, to bring justice and peace to all who are homeless. And we pray all of this in your holy and many names. Amen.
Join us in number 2095, the Flag of the Faith They Sing, Star Child.
Today, we commemorate the lives of the homeless individuals who died on our streets, in our emergency shelters, or in our hospitals from illnesses or conditions related to their homelessness. Many of the names that you are about to hear may have been former participants of some of our many homeless services. As you hear the names of the deceased, let us hope that this number becomes fewer as we are able to provide more housing opportunities and supportive services to those who face homelessness in our community. David Lee Burnley. Chauncey Bradley. Vandy Dickens. Christopher Michael Woods. Michelle Briggs Mackey. Charles Gunther. Larry Early. Philip Young. Keith High. Mac Craighead. Troy Sellers. David Elborn. Larry Abner. Richard Major. David Lee Michelle. Joni Neese. Angel Crenshaw. Brian Edwards. Craig Davidson. William Nunn. Robert Ross. And to those only he knows. To all who have perished this year. We gathered together to bring attention to the shame of homelessness and how it robs our neighbors of their hope and their lives.
We will remember you.
To those who have been lost on our city's streets, in the alleyways, abandoned buildings, and sometimes even in our hearts.
We will remember you.
For your strength, courage, and perseverance, we will celebrate your life and mourn your loss, lest we never forget your struggle.
We will remember you.
In your memory, we will rekindle hope and recommit ourselves to fight for the cause. We will work as individuals, through organizations, and as part of our communities to put an end to homelessness, now and forever.
We will remember you.
From the writings of St. Augustine, Hope has two beautiful daughters, anger at the way things are and courage to change the way things are. In your memory, we will seek to change the way things are, and
We will remember you.
Good morning, everyone. That concludes our memorial service for today. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out and being present with us today. We'd like to thank the participants that were on the program. All of these individuals do a lot of hard work. I'm very proud of them. Also, for our other guest speakers that are here, and for our musicians, and to Greene Memorial United Methodist Church, we thank you. Have a blessed day and a good holiday season.